Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Back in the garage again, and I'm gonna finish up an install from a previous video. If you were following along before, I did the subframe brace and rear lower control arms in the Civic. Unfortunately, with that brace, you can't mount the factory sway bar to it. So you unfortunately have to buy an aftermarket sway bar. So at the moment the car doesn't have any sway bar in it. A lot of EGs actually, from my research online, they didn't come with rear sway bars. So for a lot of people this would be an upgrade anyway. So why would you need to upgrade your rear sway bar, or why would you want to do it? Specifically in front wheel drive cars, they suffer from a lot of understeer, mainly because of the weight balance on the car. A lot of the weight being at the front. So putting a stiffer sway bar in the back will help eliminate some of the body roll in the front of the car. So generally what you do to the suspension in the back affects the front and vice versa. So I'm going to leave the front sway bar as is at the moment and just put this stiffer one in the back and see how I like it. These are the two sway bars. So this is the original one. So it's quite thin, it's only 14 mil, but it is solid, and the end links are made of steel as well, just with a rubber bushing. And then coming over to the new one, this is a 24 mil sway bar, and it's actually solid, this one. It's not hollow, it's not a hollow tube, so this is really heavy. It's got to be at probably 5 kilos. So it is going to add quite a bit of weight to your car as well. So it came with the rubber bushes and some billet aluminium mounts here to go over there. This one also has 2 holes, so you can adjust how stiff you want the sway bar to be. So on the end one it would be less stiff, and the closer one would be more stiff. And then also in the kit it came with these adjustable end links with Heim joints, so you can actually preload the sway bar if you want, or depending on your lower control arm you might need to extend or reduce the length of this. And then it came with these bolts and these weird washers. I think they're to go on the Heim joint there. So step one, just gonna jack the car up and just work out how this is gonna fit together. I apologise for the light, it's just started raining outside, so I've had to close the roller door. But I'm under the car now, and you can see we've got this blank threaded hole from the subframe brace, then these 2 bolts here. So this one is recessed from design, and this bolt up here is protruding out. So with the bracket here for the sway bar, it's going to mount on this lower hole, and we need to remove this top bolt. Then it can bolt up under there, and then the sway bar end link is going to go in this hole on the lower control arm. Fortunately with my brace and the sway bar, it didn't come with this bolt, but it's just an M8 metric bolt, and you probably need one that's at least 40 mil long, and that will easily thread into there. Just start by removing those top bolts. They're long enough to reuse on the new brackets. Before we install the sway bar, the inside of these bushes, we need to put a bit of grease. Otherwise, when the sway bar rotates, you're going to hear a really squeaky noise, and you're not going to know where it's coming from. just start by putting these bolts in by hand. It is quite heavy to hold that bar up, so you could probably use a jack as well if needed. So still got it loose, so I can shift it side to side. And you can still rotate the bar as well. Now I'm gonna look at the end links. So you can have these positioned sideways or any orientation you want. And you can see the sway bar here is pointing this direction, but my lower control arm's the opposite. So I'm gonna need to have it like that and then rotated to bolt it through the sway bar. So in terms of bolting up the end link here, this hole isn't machined quite large enough to receive the M10 bolt. It won't go in, but these end links require an M10 bolt. M8 does fit in there, but it's a bit too loose, and obviously too loose for the end link. And the bolt that they supplied is too long. So what I'm gonna have to do is just drill out the hole here slightly larger. I think it's just only 1/2 mil too small to receive the M10 bolt. So I've gone to Bunnings and I've bought some M10 by 75 mil bolts for the lower control arm. And I got some lock nuts to go on there and some washers. And then for the other end of the end link where it attaches to the sway bar, I've got some M10 by 50 bolts so that they'll fit. So in terms of bolting up the sway bar end link, I've got my new M10 bolt and washer. It's gonna go through. Now on this bolt here, you're going to use the thicker of the shim with the flat end going towards the control arm, then the end link. I don't think it really matters which way it goes around on the bottom. And then the thinner of the shims with the dish side towards the end link. And then the nylock nut on the end. I'm not sure how much preload to go on this, but I'm just going to adjust the nut to halfway down and then thread it in until it gets down to the nut. And then the end link is going to go on the wheel side of the sway bar. So for the top end, we got washer on the bolt, through the sway bar, and then thin washer. And then the other thin washer, and then the lock nut on the end. Before I do up all the bolts on the end links, I'm actually just going to lower the car back down onto some timber and just see how much the sway bar pitches. And then from there, if I'm happy with the preload, I'm just going to lock it up there, or I can just take the nut off quickly and screw some more preload in or remove some out. If you have too much preload on your suspension, it can affect the geometry and the movement of the suspension. It's going to limit how much the lower control arm can actually move. Here I'm just showing you what the washers should look like, how they should be stacked. Now you can see how much the sway bar pitches when it's lowered down. To me, it looks like there's a bit too much preload on that end link, so I'm just going to shorten it up a little bit more because I don't think the lower control arm has actually come back to where it was before. It used to be a little bit more upright, so I think the car's sitting on the sway bar a bit too much. Here I'm just adjusting the sway bar end link. I'm just threading it down until there's no movement in that bolt there, just not to leave it too loose. And then once it's tight, then chuck the shim and the nut back up, and you can start doing all those bolts back up. You just want to adjust these end links so that they're straight up and down. So you can see this is quite straight. So with the sway bar now everything's bolted and adjusted. With the wheels still off the ground at maximum droop, the sway bar just has a little bit, tiniest bit of mote free play. So it's pretty much at like 0 setting, and then once the car lowers down, then it starts loading up. Alright, just recapping on the sway bar install. It was pretty easy if you had the right hardware. The kit, I think I paid $150 for it with postage, and it came in a couple days from Sydney. The sway bar is solid, like it's not cheap tube sway bar, so it's actually pretty good quality, and it has the adjustable end links, which a lot of cheaper ones don't have either. But it doesn't come with the right hardware specifically for an EG Civic. So I'd say you need to make a trip to Bunnings and buy some bolts to get it to fit up. But the fitment's fine, and I think the quality is really good as well. We'll just have to wait and see when I drive if it's helped reduce some of the understeer. But for bang for buck, it's a must do. Alright guys, put any questions you have down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you for the next video.